Thank you so much for joining How to Buy Legal AI Smart Questions to Ask AI Vendors with Elspeth Vincent, General Counsel at Field. Unfortunately, I forgot to hit record before we did the very beginning, so don't worry, I got all the important bits, but we're going to jump right into me asking the very first question to Elspeth about how to get started. Don't forget, we also have created a handy checklist and handout from this conversation. You can get that in the content or also click on the additional resources in the event page. I hope you enjoy this conversation. If you do, please share it with your colleagues. Thanks. Apologies, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. We're back and we're here. So we're answering the question of, with that rude interruption from Zoom, where do you start when you're looking at AI vendors?
Sure. Okay. So my lens is like legal team. So general counsel, what am I trying to solve? So you've got to be super clear about your objectives, and it's worth looking around the business to find out what other products are being used to solve the particular thing you're trying to do. So what is that? Is that are you a really busy legal team? Is it workflows that you can't keep up with? Is it contract reviews because you have a lot of the same kind of contracts? Is it a contract repository? You've got investors who need to know exactly where to find critical documents, or you're going through a fundraise, or what are those big reasons to have a specific repository that isn't just File Explorer or Google Drive? Are you looking for an all-in-one contract lifecycle management tool that does everything or claims to do everything from scratch? Or are you looking for something that's more bespoke, some kind of AI tool that answers questions or that does deep research for you? But as I said, being very specific about your legal use case is absolutely key. And I think one of the things that I would advise caution about is we are now in a very crowded marketplace. And when my company started looking at legal tech a few years ago, it was a much smaller marketplace. It was much easier to choose. And I think the one piece of advice I would have is just be very clear. Don't buy something that claims to do everything straight away. And equally, don't just look at lots and lots of products to put together. You've got to really work out, looking at your company's tech infrastructure, what's going to work in harmony together and not be over engineered and neither leave any gaps. You will be challenged to justify why this product should be added to your existing company tech stack. I have been in the past. So you need to have a really good use case before you even begin to search for your right solution.
And on that point of looking at your existing tech stack, how did you go about seeing if any of the existing tech that you had could potentially solve the problems that you identified? You know, given whatever size company you're at, was there a certain approach that you had there?
It was pretty straightforward. I mean, my own experience is it was a startup. We had the classic tech startup space of Google Suite and Slack. And beyond that, we didn't have anything else that was especially going to support the things we wanted to do. Our specific use case was a contract repository, knowing that Google Suite, for example, you can move stuff about, anybody has access, it can be deleted, it can be edited. And with a very busy number of live assets across multiple countries, we needed to have critical reminders, key dates, key things that needed to be flagged, contracts owned by people, and clear links to other contracts. So it was obvious what we needed then. If I was doing that now, though, I would be looking frantically around all of the products that claim to have AI, and I'd be looking at ways to automate using that existing AI. ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot. I'd be seeking all of the different ways that these productivity AI offerings can support your existing workflow.
And on that, since you're saying, okay, our tech stack is G Suite, would you be more in favor of using Gemini because it comes in that, or let's just say Copilot was awesome? Would you look at that? Like, how much does, let's say integration or just ease with your current tech stack matter?
Good question. I want to be product agnostic in my comments on this call, but I think just instinctively we shouldn't just accept that one is the right thing to do. Naturally, your company will have invested in whichever LLM is most appropriate for the whole company use. If that's ChatGPT, great, but you've probably got somewhere else to store your documents. You may have that alongside Google Suite. So at that point, you're being offered Gemini as part of the Google Suite. So you probably need to work out which one is better for different tasks. So it's not always this is the one task that this thing does, it does everything. It's like a really sensitive solution. And for me, I'm really cautious about using non-legal specific AI to do the very nuanced interpretation and advice work that we do as a legal team. So yeah, it's not just find the one that is aligned to your company, because your company tech suite, your company is probably already looking at other AI solutions alongside whatever is the logical one.
And I like what you said there about really, understanding, like, let's just, and again, I'm just using names and no judgment with any of them, but just it makes it easier to compare. Um, right, like what is, let's say, Gemini good at versus, again, if we just stick with my previous example, Copilot. So I think teams sort of struggle with that. Do you have any way to evaluate that or anything that when you're looking at how do I understand what Gemini does better than, let's say, Copilot? And again, it could be any tools, but I'm just using those two as the example.
Mm. Yeah, so just to touch briefly on prompt engineering, it's absolutely critical to get your prompts right because obviously rubbish in, rubbish out. And so you can test these different tools by asking to do a simple contract review, for example. If you're already working in generative AI, then to do contract reviews, then you've probably got a really good prompt. If you haven't, just find one on any particular website. I hear that Wordsmith does something like this. um, but run exactly the same command in each of the AI tools that you have, and just see what is generated as an output. And it's not just the like the way that it's presented. It's the depth of research it's done. It's the accuracy. It's whether or not it can handle your own house templates, for example. And if you were looking at workflows, then I suppose the logical thing to do would be to have a look. So if you've got, for example, I don't know, Salesforce, and as part of the legal team, you're dealing with GDPR compliance, then maybe looking for a hookup between being able to pull data from Salesforce into this generative AI function that you've got. How easy is it to integrate with other parts of the business and their needs and the information that you need to draw as the legal team?
And so I kind of jumped ahead because I found pieces of information that I want to know the answer to. But if I go back to before we start testing, do you have any methodical way? So like I've identified my problem. We can pick any problem that we want. Um, and then I've gone through and tried to look for AI. Like, how do I find which solutions fit my problem? Am I just using ChatGPT or Google? Or did you go look at, like, maybe, let's say, like Crafty Counsel has a community? Are you finding information there? Where are you finding information to evaluate potentials to whittle it down to those that you're going to test?
That's a really good question. It's a crowded marketplace. I mean, obviously, I am hit up daily by emails. I don't even know where they come from, offering all of the different products. That's not the best way to actually identify which one is the best. I guess it's trusted touch points. So it's speaking to other legal teams. What do you use? What works? It's going to things like Crafty Fest, where we went, where, it's not just anybody can go and display their wares. It's, pretty bespoke, selected crew of people, very legal specific. It's just going into your community of like legal professionals, assuming that everyone on the call is a legal professional, probably not, but go into your professional networking circles and ask the question, it's something that's asked time and again whenever I look at the different, professional WhatsApp groups I'm in and different fora that I'm, you know, observing and taking part in. And then once you've kind of got your wide group of potential products, it's then whittling it down by the process of actually jumping onto the sometimes painful sales call, but being prepared with the really tough questions that you need to ask in order to like decide if they're in or out just from one sales call.
I think, yeah, that's definitely a good process. I've also seen people asking it on LinkedIn, conversations and people weighing in on that. But I think from my point of view as in-house counsel, I would go probably to the trusted people who have companies, right, that are similar to me, maybe that even have a similar tech stack, and always starting with that problem, right? I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
key.
Absolutely. One other thought came to mind. Actually, when we did our first foray into legal tech, it was early 2022, and the market was relatively young. We didn't really know what we were doing, so we actually engaged an external consultant to help us to choose the right product. And the benefit of that was the external consultant was properly engaged with the market, had implemented those solutions for other clients, and therefore had a good first-hand experience of what the product looks like and what it can achieve, and critically feedback sometime after implementation had taken place.
I didn't necessarily mean to do the clapping hands. I apologize for that if you saw that, but I think one of the things that I've seen some teams be tripped up by is not having a specialist or someone who really understands. So, legal ops are really great to rely on if you have a legal ops team, but if you don't have someone that has the time, effort, and understanding, then definitely I think going to an outside resource, it's
Mm.
money well spent. Prior to joining Wordsmith, when I was in-house counsel, we evaluated legal tech as well, and it was very hard. There was a team of two. And even with the team of two, it was hard for us to figure out. And I think if we had just spent a little extra money, hired an outside consultant, it would have gone much faster and probably been more successful.
I think so, and you've touched on a really good point there, but having the internal resource to help you that isn't someone in the legal team or whichever team you're in. Startups don't have the luxury of a dedicated IT function. Scale-ups rarely do. If you have the benefit of legal engineers in your company, software engineers, data scientists, they're not going to appreciate being asked how to judge and evaluate a piece of legal tech. It's really important just to sort of scout around and find out if you do have a project management office, project manager somewhere in the company. Fortunately, we do. We had a really brilliant person from the team who was able to dedicate his time to help us to solve this problem and implement the product. So it's worth asking around the business just to see if you can find someone who can champion it with you.
That definitely, especially I think if you're a smaller team, having that partner is, I think, a big benefit. So when we talked, I was also intrigued about, when you're looking at the companies, and a lot of these AI companies happen to be startups or scale ups as well. you know, are you looking at how a supplier or vendor is funded, and what other criteria are you looking at for companies that aren't well established? Because with AI, we don't have right any well established companies because the technology is so new.
Yeah, very good question. And I suppose that it's very logical if you are in a company that is seeking, as in you, the customer, are in a company that's in a VC or PE backed world, then you know how hard it is to get VC or PE backing for your product. You have to sell proof points. You have to really convince them that you've got a total accessible market of X, and that you expect to take this share, and you expect to roll out this product, and it's got a significant lifelong kind of evolution, and more importantly that you're going to see a return on investment for your investors. So over 10 years, what does it look like? What kind of return can you generate? The same question can be asked of legal tech providers, legal AI providers. So I think just it's really important hallmark to find out how is this company funded. So I would say it's a really good indication of a product that's worthy of your long-term investment if it's got venture capital or private equity backing. That process will have indicated that it's a viable product that's worthy of development investment in the long run. And it's probably going to signify the winners in a very crowded marketplace, those that are advertising that they've got this kind of funding available to them. And indications of that will probably be press releases around a new round of investment. But otherwise, you can just ask in the calls you have with the product that you're interested in. Just check, how are you funded?
I think that is definitely, something to look at. If we're just going to say, being in house and moving to Wordsmith when it was very early, when it was pre-Series A, right? I was making a calculated risk and trying to, look at judgment, who's the leadership team, who are initial investors. And now, if I were after our Series A funding, like let's say if I were looking to make the same decision to be employed or take the risk of going with a startup, right? They've clearly shown that the market is interested in supporting them with a $25 million raise, right? So looking at it either sort of from being an employee of the company and also looking at your vendors, I think that definitely is critical. And who's providing that investment as well is interesting if you're in the startup VC world.
Mm.
Are, are there any like red or green flags that you look for in investor quality or funding structure? Do you go in that deep? You're just looking at.
I'm not that mean. Don't
Okay,
have that much time.
exactly.
I don't go
Well,
that deep. I think it's just a really good indicator. If you can see it, then it's great. But otherwise, you're going to be looking at other ways to test how the product is placed in the marketplace and how it's going to survive in the long term for you.
definitely. And I think that's great because, yeah, the people who want to get the right investment back on their money are investing in this company. So it
Mm.
seems to be a pretty good bet there. So, even if a company is financially solid, that doesn't necessarily mean that the product will keep evolving in the right direction, or even that leadership, right, is going to help the product. Having worked at different size companies, right, it takes a different leader going from startup to scale to let's say mid-size to enterprise. Those are different leadership teams based on the size of the company. So, with that, are you looking at the leadership teams or their background at all when you're evaluating vendors?
I think that's a great idea. It's not something I specifically have, but I think one thing I really do look at is like, where are you hiring from? So it does apply to the executive team, of course it does. But it's really interesting to see who you're hiring and where they're coming from. Because if you've got a team who have demonstrated that they have delivered a viable product in the past, then that sets them up for a good new product here. So where are you getting your engineers from? Are they coming from, a competitor who's successfully launched a product that's got a legacy to it? Are they coming from really credible, big tech companies, the behemoths like your Facebooks and Googles? What is it? Because you can see if they're coming from these great places, then it must be a great place to work, and it must be an indicative of, again, a product that is credible enough to pull the right kind of employees to, because we're all in demand as lawyers. I'm sure that legal tech engineers, for example, are also very much in demand and will move to the product that suits them best. They can see the best opportunities to work on a product that's developing and continuing to develop.
I think that definitely is a good point. I think when we talked before, where you also mentioned, do you look at all or at like employee satisfaction at a company?
I think it's a question I've asked in the
Yeah.
past, because I think a company that's serious about its employees and attracting and retaining the right talent does have early employee engagement surveys. And we may not ever see those we won't be privy to them, but occasionally it might be published on LinkedIn. You might see something, but it's another hallmark of a good place to work. If a company is prepared to share the results of its employee engagement survey, then it's another way of looking at a product that's worth investing in.
Yeah, and I really like that. I had not thought of that, but it does make sense. If people are happy, they're not leaving. Let's say you could even look at Glassdoor, right? Or something like that. Those reviews. I think that's another data point that you can look at. So I mean, I really like that. So coming back to sort of like features, when I've worked with a lot of sales teams at startups and scale ups. And often, I don't know if you run into this, they sell things that don't exist. And then you, as an in-house lawyer, are like, oh, good, I need to figure out how we're going to sell this product and make a contract for a product that doesn't exist, but hopefully will exist in the future. Um, are you able to distinguish? Is there any way to kind of figure out whether or not what you're seeing and what the salespeople are telling you is actually in the product versus what's in the roadmap versus if someone's just making something up?
Well, I think, yeah, you can buy the product and find out for yourself over a period of 2 years. Um, I think I guess you've just got to like, there's a couple of things you can do. So, one is you can ask for a free trial. So, there's nothing quite like getting your feet under the desk with the thing you want to try out, but it's going to take you a lot of time because if you've narrowed down your selection to three providers, and let's say you quite fancy a generous 1 month plus test, that's at least 3 months of your time just assessing which one is going to work best for the problems you're trying to solve or the things you're trying to improve. Um, that is a really good idea because that does allow you to genuinely check what is being advertised is what I'm going to get. And if you can get a genuine integration of the product into your company's tech stack for a period of month plus, then you're going to get a really good feel for distinguishing what's fluff and what's real. The other way to do this is to try and engage with the development team. So every tech provider, every AI provider is going to have a development team, and I have found that it's actually really engaging speaking to the development team. A little bit nerve-wracking as a lawyer with no technical training, but ultimately, you're the customer and you know what it is you're trying to do. And after repeatedly using it for a bit and realizing this doesn't work or this isn't ringing true, then having that relationship with the development team is great. So starting out when you're assessing what you need from your product, then understanding what the development roadmap looks like is great because that's not going to contain the stuff that isn't important to the product. These are press teams who are given a budget and a timescale to deliver X, Y, and Z. So the development roadmap should look realistic, and so you can see what's coming down the line. And at that point, you can see, is that going to cross over with other products that we've got in the company? Am I going to have a different conversation in 3 months' time because suddenly I've realised that something else in the company is a better fix than that particular thing? But yeah, just getting a feel for how the development team works is also really helpful.
I think that's definitely smart. I know starting so early at Wordsmith, the evolution has been, I mean, I've never seen anything like it with AI, and then also with this company, how much the product has transformed. And when customers, certain customers ask for features or integrations or things like that, a well-disciplined team that has happy engineers and employees who come from reputable companies can then execute and deliver on that. And that's definitely something that I've seen. So they all, I think, come sort of all these factors do are interwoven and come together.
Very true.
So I guess those are some of the things that we're looking at. And then when we're going through and you're looking, okay, let's try to get a trial. Um, and I think there, the one that I thought, because again, I did this too, maybe like about a year and a half ago. We got the free trials and then never had time to actually use the free trial period and then do that assessment. So I definitely think if you're going to do that, make, as you said, prepare ahead of time and make sure you clear space in your calendar to try out the tool and have a framework. So before you ask for the free trial, I would say get all of that in line, because 2 weeks, if you have a 2 week, that goes by very quickly, or even a month. And just speaking from personal experience, it just was always kept getting hit to the bottom of the to-do list. Then all of a sudden you realize your free trial is over.
Exactly. I think beginning of the quarter, not end of the quarter, is the right time to get that locked in, because we all know what end of quarter reporting looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure that you clear time for it, definitely.
Yeah,
Um, and do you, so now when you're looking at different characteristics, do you ask also these vendors or providers about what onboarding looks like, or customer support or success? Is that important?
absolutely key. So you said at the start that really scary, well, press article that said 95% of, legal AI fails for want of implementation. I think that probably is scarily true, because you have to be totally immersed in the product, in my experience, to make a success of it, because you not only need your own team to adopt it, you need to believe in it yourself. You need to know that it's capable of happy adoption by the team, but you also need to convince the wider company and critically your executive team that it's the one thing. Um, so what you need to ensure successful implementation is a commitment from the provider to come along on that journey with you. So you need to ask the difficult question, is like, 95% of tech AI implementations fail. Can you tell me why, and how is your company going to change that for me? How are you going to ensure that we're not going to be one of those 95%? We want to be in the 5%. And it's a case of asking, like, what time commitment you can get from the service provider. So what do you get? Can we have weekly calls? Can we have a teaching session? Can we have access to your training materials? Can you tell us exactly blow, blah, blow what we need to do? Can you share with us some videos? So you need to look at the website and see what kind of support materials you can get for FAQs and, suggested ways of adoption of this AI or tech in the company. Um, and I think having that dedicated account manager is really good. Having a great relationship with the person who's going to be your ongoing relationship person at the company. I've got really good examples of this, and I can't tell you how much difference it makes to have somebody who's right there when it's just not working like you want it to, or just some feature that you want to develop you don't have the skills to do because you're a lawyer, you're not a technical engineer, and you find that resource in the provider because they want it to succeed as well.
I think that's definitely a good point. You know, obviously I'm the head of the Wordsmith Academy, so we believe in education as part, educating lawyers to how to use AI is definitely part of what will make implementation successful. Um, and so then one of my questions then is, if you have people that are resistant or, maybe intimidated, like there's a lot of emotions that come around adopting AI, including fear of losing one's job, of being replaced, maybe of not upskilling and keeping up in the market. So it can be emotional for legal team members. Do you have any suggestions about how to motivate team members to use the tool or get the most out of it? Because these are some challenges that we are also facing.
I'm just going to scan the faces on the call to see if any team members are here.
I'm
But
not, no specifics, just in general in your career.
in general, it's got to be done by leadership. You can't just sort of launch product, say, here you go, everybody use this, without actually walking the walk yourself. So I think if you're the one who's championing this adoption of this tech in your team, you have to know it inside out, back to front. You have to be the one who commits to raising issues, to testing to trialing to um, showing everybody how it works. We have weekly team meetings, and we like to share um, whoopsies. They're my favorite thing at the moment with generative AI. Like, what did it hallucinate this week? Who spotted that? And also, a continuous legal ops path. So we've got a legal ops roadmap. We know what we're doing, and so bringing the team along with that to see the benefit of it is really important. Like, what are the problems that the team is facing? What are the things that are creating noise or blockages or taking time? How can we fix those? Bring the team along with the journey, get everybody testing whatever it is you're trying to use. And yeah, it feels like a collaboration is probably the most successful way to do it.
And how do you as a general counsel, right? You're a busy general counsel, but you're taking ownership and learning the tool inside and out. I would imagine um, that maybe let's say less, maybe people general counsel that aren't as interested in tech or as enthusiastic about AI. Do you have any advice for them that might seem intimidating or daunting?
Yeah, no, that's fair actually. Um, it is it is something that I think is absolutely critical to running an efficient business partnering as a legal team. So our like raison d'etre in the team is to be like really integrated business partners. We're not just a department that does legal work. We are thoroughly living and breathing what the teams in the company are doing. And so the teams will really appreciate where you can make efficiencies. That's happening around our company and other departments. So it's not a matter of I choose to do this. It's a matter of like it's important as a company. It's important to continue the company ethos at each team level to make sure we're innovating and we're becoming more efficient. I think the scary thing for a busy GC is finding the time. You're absolutely right. But I've sort of committed to myself an hour a day is going to be spent on AI and whatever I can do to improve what we're doing. And that'll be for a short term, but at the moment I'm dedicating that time, and I think it's a good use of my time, frankly, because it's absolutely vital that we showcase our how we're using AI in the legal team, because that will very much show the business how good custodianship looks when you're looking after company data and confidential information. So I think to dispel the sort of fear, it's attending workshops like this, it's looking at resources online to show you what the art of the possible is. It's really brushing up on your skills of basic prompt engineering, like knowing how to create an instruction for the AI tool is like one of the most basic things you can do, and that's one of the most basic things you can share with your team.
I think, yeah, that's definitely true. And I think I read an article not too long ago about, will legal ops become part of the skill set that every general counsel needs? Will we see general counsel that have legal ops backgrounds, coming to the forefront with technology and maybe having their legal specialists?
I
So,
think, yeah, well, interesting.
yeah,
Maybe that would be a phenomenal waste of, general counsel's whole time, I imagine.
yeah.
But exciting for anyone who wants to take up that challenge. I think it's really important to have this particular skill in your set. I think if I were going to um, look for a new job, I'm not, by the way, but if I were, then I would expect to be challenged on how are you implementing AI? How are you making sure governance looks correct? What kind of efficiencies are you making through the use of tech and AI?
That I think that's definitely true. And I know we don't have that much more time, so I do want to touch on like data security and confidentiality. When you're looking at using these legal tech or AI vendors, are you looking at the security or confidentiality, or are you bringing in someone from your security team to help you look at that?
Yeah, good question. Yes, 100%. We're not procuring any kind of AI in the company at all unless it's been through a data security check. and that's fundamental. So if anybody on the call is thinking about procuring legal AI, just make sure that you've got somebody in the company who can check the data security is compliant with whatever your requirements are. So if you're customer heavy, then that's going to be GDPR compliance. If you're regulated, then it's going to be whatever your regulator requires. And also, it depends on what you're trying to put through the AI. So it might be confidential contracts. It might be litigation. It might be employee data. So each of these categories is incredibly risky if it is then shared, or if the product you're using is training its LLMs on your data. So the most fundamental question to ask is, who in my company can help me review this? Who knows about cybersecurity? Who knows about data security? The next most important one is, will your product train on my data? So, I mean, what that means is the large language models that underpin the AI offering, are they going to take your data and develop their own knowledge for wider use outside your company or not? So the key thing there is not, obviously. And apart from that, I don't honestly know what the detailed checks are, because I do have the benefit of an excellent colleague who knows all about this and does it for us as a company.
I think those
But
are
you should ask for the data security policy. There will be one.
Yeah, definitely ask for the data security policy, and a lot of companies have trust centers, so you can go and look at that documentation, and then, depending on your skill set, you might need to tap in someone else to do that. But I think that's definitely critical. Now, one thing I've noticed too is just looking at AI products, how do you can you get clarity on pricing? Like, how do you know what you're being offered, right, is competitive? Because I've seen conversations where pricing seems to be all over the place for AI products.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, sometimes you get it on the website. So the website will say it's this much per head, or here's the plan. They're my favorites because you can then like be absolutely clear. Lawyers like certainty. Lawyers don't really love going into an environment where it's like, oh, we'll just figure something out for you. Or maybe that's just me. So I would say you need some honest and open, transparent pricing. If it's not published, then you've got to make a value-based decision. Does this feel right for my company? Run it through your relevant approvals, but ask for some comparisons around the company. If other teams are using AI products, how much are they paying? Does this look about right? And think about, it's not just the annual cost, it's also what kind of plan you're going to get. So is it a plan for a year? Is it a plan that's the most basic? Or is it a plan that includes something called enterprise? You need to know what's going to be included, because one of the biggest risks is being locked into a price that's going to auto renew after a year, rapidly increase because, I don't know, some kind of investment's been done into the product, and you're then sort of stuck at the end of a year going, can I really use this product again? Am I going to be able to justify it with a 50% price increase? The answer is unlikely. So you'll have to start that procedure again. So you need a kind of honest discussion at the outset, like what kind of price can we lock in for what period? What kind of percentage could we say it can go above? No more than X percentage. I don't know how these conversations are going to pan out, but if you're uncertain, then it's just kind of go for the shortest period you can, see how it works for you, and at the end of the first, like 3 months before the end of it, you need to start thinking, is this going to be the one we renew with? Start having those early conversations before you need to give notice to terminate, and also assess the other products that you're interested in. One of the key things that I think is quite risky, and this is why it's really important to get an eye on the development roadmap, is if you can see a new feature coming down the line that will really improve the product that you're using, but you're being asked to pay more for that product, then consider how much more you're being asked to pay for that product, and whether or not it renders the rest of what you're doing obsolete. So there's no point in a company saying, here's our shiny new bolt-on for this product, but FYI, if you don't buy it, the rest of the product isn't going to be invested in. It's not looking particularly good without this new bolt-on that we've developed. So I would be wary about that. There is an argument to say, well, if the company is investing significantly more in a massive improvement to it, then great, but also it's not a happy place for you as a client to be when you know that something is going to be coming down the line and then you're being expected to pay a lot more for it. It'll be another difficult conversation at the renewal time.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. And I mean, it'll be very interesting, right, to see how technology evolves again in a year from now. Technology will be very different. And then also, right, we've seen, I guess, counter to prices going up, right? In the beginning, processing with large language models was extremely costly, and that has come down. So that also, I don't know if that would come into it, but just thinking about our processing power and how quickly these things are changing, keeping an eye on things like that. I don't know how to prevent against that, but it's just something to be aware of.
Yeah, I think it's just having that good relationship with the provider, like, being able to check in and see what the writing on the wall looks like quite regularly.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I know we have about 10 minutes left. So I know we have a couple of people online. If anyone wants to ask a question, please, you can put it in the chat or you can come off mute right now. I don't want to be the only one asking questions. I do have more questions, but I invite anyone who's on the call, if they can, to ask a question.
Last one.
Hi,
Yes.
Ben.
Hey, Laura. Yeah, so I've made some notes. Like so many useful points there, and like a lot that I've never really thought about. One of the things that when we were implementing AI in my last job was just that time point, and I I was kind of I wasn't at a GC level, so I was obviously a bit more junior, but I was trying to find time to protect my team to enable them to have space to implement AI and to make the trial a success. What sort of strategies have you done? Like, is it around OKRs? Is it around saying we're not going to do anything strategic? How would you make it a success, and how have you done it in your team?
Really good question, and it is evolving, but we do have quarterly OKRs, as many startups, scale-ups, like development companies do. So it's on the agenda for the legal team. It's very important. We have a set of very specific OKRs, like create a dedicated channel for inbound legal queries, update the legal landing page on the intranet to make sure it's got hyperlinks to all of our different AI tools and methods that we follow. Yeah, and they're really kind of granular, and it's a matter of sharing them out. So, like I said before, I don't think it's something that you could do on your own as a GC. You've got to get the team involved, and unless the team are involved in those really important implementation tasks, they're not going to genuinely understand them and see behind the tool and understand how to manipulate it. So it is a shared OKR.
And did you ever have to push back to the business, like them saying, we need this thing done, we need something, and you're saying, look, our focus for the next X months is implementation. Can you wait for this, or did you have to just still juggle those responsibilities?
I think when you're saying, can we have this urgent thing, do you mean relating to the tech or just
I,
generally?
I, yeah, I was just
Oh, we're doing
thinking
a
like
fundraise.
what
Can you
the,
just drop the tech for 9 months?
yeah, so maybe that's a bad example, but yeah, like if there's if there's kind of increasing volumes or here's an example that we came up against was like there was increasing pressure around turnaround times, and the business was saying we want responses to these things to go down in a feedback survey. So it was in the short term, they didn't go down because more time was being spent on AI implementation, but longer term, the the, the response times did go down. So, but it was a case of having to push back there and be like, look, we are drowning. We need to build these things to give us space. Can you give us that
Yeah,
breathing room?
that's a really good problem. I haven't had that actual problem, but a really
Mm.
good example of, you know, the business needs this, but we're saying, hang on, let's not run before we can walk. Is, you know, we have had a feature that we wanted to lock in, and it's taken quite a lot of work with the development team at the product we're using to get that feature rolled out. And it's still not perfect, but we've actually bolted on a new product now, which has just kind of increased its ability to do what we want it to do. So I think just keeping the business up to date with these things, but also being super slick as a business team, like as a business partner, and managing to keep on top of the burgeoning problem that's happening, is great. You know, it's not ideal when you face a burnout situation. So, you know, that's the kind of risk you've got to avoid. And at that point, it's a sensible conversation around resourcing and extra budget for, you know, temporary resource, maybe to implement the tech rather than to divert lawyers away from the, you know, business critical matters.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. And we have additional questions too. So I'm going to go to Sarah's first. So she said she just reviewed a startup's terms and confidentiality obligations and they were missing. If they add them, how can I trust my data will be protected? What additional questions do I ask? I noted training on my data and asking about data security, but you know, how can I trust that these companies are protecting my data, especially when, let's say, we don't know exactly how large language models work?
Can I flip that question over to Ben, who I know is a privacy
I
specialist?
thought about that as well.
Yeah. Startups, terms and conditions.
So, I mean, from my point of view, like it's a startup, right? And they don't have confidentiality in their terms. And then I'm like, hey, how can you add these? And they're like, sure, no problem. We'll add that in. Like, how do I know they're actually going to do
Where's
what
the
they're,
substance?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I'm happy to offer my thoughts quickly. I
Yeah.
think, to my mind, whenever we were looking at anything to do with data or privacy, and I guess by extension confidentiality here, if it was a startup, then we would give a certain amount of leeway if it was a really innovative product, and like you say, Laura, try and negotiate it and push quite hard to get um, our position as we wanted it. But equally, I think Yvonne has just said I wouldn't use them. There is that like red flag, like you see it and you go, oh, like this is too risky. We can't use it. Can we look for alternative vendors? But of course, ultimately, if the business says we want to use them, you've got to try and mitigate that risk as much as possible.
And I don't know if that's also where working with your security team could come in and have your security team vet, like, okay, where is data moving? What are they saying that they're complying with, right? To get a deeper understanding of what is happening with data and how they're putting protections in place.
Yeah,
And I,
yeah, absolutely. I think it's that trust, isn't it? It's a face to. I think it's probably a kind of legal team to legal team discussion around like, okay, well, thanks for including the confidentiality in your provisions, but actually, can you talk me through how you're walking this? You know, I need to understand more around how you're handling the data. I suppose it depends what category of data it is as well. You know, obviously, if it's personal data, then you're going to need to have a data processing agreement in place. If it's other, you know, just broader categories of data, then you need to be absolutely sure that it's treated in utter confidentiality. And I'm not sure how to get there with the worrying situation of T's and C's not including confidentiality. It's a massive oversight from whoever's drafted them.
And I know we have 1 minute left, but I do, there's another question that I want to get to because it was interesting. Um, do you have any thoughts on the environmental impact of using AI?
I do. Hi, Ivona. It's something I'm tracking quite closely, actually. There's an Economist series of articles, Economist Impact, I think, series of articles on data centers and inherently how much it costs in terms of carbon to run a generative AI search. So I think my view at the moment is one of tracking that kind of information and understanding the impact that each search has. And I think where I'm coming to with how to mitigate that impact is making sure that the quality of the searches that we run are genuinely required. So good quality first time, not frivolous. I think on the one hand, you want to use this AI tool as much as possible, but on the other hand, you should minimize your use of it for stuff that you can just kind of Google. And that would be a very baby step way towards minimizing your use of the carbon that is being consumed by the data center that's running this tool.
I think that's excellent advice to now to start distinguish when do I really need to use AI?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really helpful. And it is all about education, isn't it? Because at the moment, people are there firing off queries into ChatGPT and Copilot, not understanding the implications of it. So I'm hoping somewhere there's going to be more talk about it and people will be responsible for themselves. But Els, thanks a lot. That's really useful. And great presentation, girls.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Now we're a minute over, so I just want to thank you so much, Elspeth, for joining us. We really appreciate it. This is very insightful, and I'm going to take the transcript and turn it into a handout and have you look at it first to make sure that we've got your points and haven't misrepresented anything. And then hopefully we can really share this with people. And also this recording will be on the Academy, and we can share it far and wide to help everyone else think about how they can evaluate AI legal tech vendors. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you for the excellent questions.
And thanks very much for having me, Laura. It's been a pleasure.
Definitely. Have a good evening, everyone.